and you had Nicky Eyes.
What's up, guy?
And Mikey Franzese.
That guy, yeah, I want to see him.
Hey everybody, welcome to another sit down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. And it's Mob Movie Monday. So, I always told you that the three most accurate films as far as capturing the essence of the mob life, the street life, was Goodfellas, which we're going to review today, Donnie Brasco, and the original Gotti movie, the HBO Gotti movie with Armand Assante. We spoke about that already. I know a lot of people agreed with me. So they really capture the essence of the street life, the mob life as I knew it. Not necessarily factually accurate in everything that the movie portrayed, but a good depiction of the life in general. So let's talk about Goodfellas. I've been asked about that so many times. Let me get one thing straightened out right away. This is Henry Hill's portrayal of that life. It's his story. You know, it comes from the book The Wise Guy, written by Nicholas Pileggi, and it's Henry's revelation of what happened during that time. And for the most part, I think, Henry did a fairly accurate job. He did say pretty accurately what was going on during his life at that time. But let me get a couple of things straight. Number one, Henry never looked so good, and I don't mean to be demeaning to Henry at all, but he never looked so good as he did in that movie. Henry was not the figure that was portrayed by Ray Liotta in a big way. What I mean by that, Henry was kind of an unfortunate soul for most of the time that I knew him, most of the time that he was on the street. He had an alcohol problem. He certainly had a drug problem a little bit later on. Maybe he had it longer than later on. I don't know. But I can tell you a couple of things. Henry never walked through the kitchen of the Copacabana without somebody that was with him, like Paulie Vario, if Paulie ever really hung with him, or some of the other guys. You got to understand that, and I'm not trying to put Henry down. I'm just trying to tell you the truth. And he wasn't that close to Paulie Vario. In the movie it was depicted that he was with him, that he knew him, that, Paulie treated him like a son. I don't believe that to be true. I knew those guys. I knew that crew fairly well. He was very close to Jimmy Burke, and he was part of Jimmy Burke's crew. He did know Tommy DeSimone, obviously. But again, this is Henry's version of the story. So always remember, that there are going to be inconsistencies in it. And of course, the producers, the director, they take dramatic liberty whenever they make a film. Has to be. They only got an hour and a half to do it. So let me go through a couple of things. First off, the scene where they're around the bar and they're mentioning names and they look at somebody and they're going, there is Mikey Franzese. You got to understand, my wife up to that point, she didn't get into all of this stuff. She didn't read my book. She didn't really know what was going on in that regard. She didn't want to know. And as the movie proceeds a little bit, she looks at me and says, is this really what your life was all about? Because remember, California girl, didn't know anything about the mob. Her only connection to the mob was me. So she says, is this really what your life was all about? And I said, come on, honey, it's a movie. Watch the movie. That's Hollywood. They make things up, right? No sooner than I say that, then this scene in the bar comes out. And there's Mikey Franzese. And I look at her, I says, come on, honey, let's go. I was surprised. I didn't know why they mentioned my name. I wasn't part of that crew. Yes, I knew them, but whole different crew. Those are Little Cageys. I'm a Colombo guy. And I tell my wife, that wasn't me. It was probably somebody else, even though I don't know anybody, with the name Michael Franzese that was part of that life. My dad's brother, Mikey Franzese, his older brother, was not involved in the mob. He's the only other Mike Franzese that I know. So anyway, she goes home and she Googles me, and sure enough, okay, Goodfellas, Michael Franzese, there I am in a mugshot, and it shows that the guy Bono, whatever his name is, Mickey Bono, I think, he portrayed me. I asked Henry later on, why did you throw that? And I asked Nick Pileggi too, because I knew him. I said, why'd you throw me in the film? He said, oh, Michael, you had name value. Henry knew you. Jimmy Burke knew you. So we put your name in there. And I had visited, the suite, which was Henry's club on Queens Boulevard at that time. I also was at Jimmy Burke's place. I think it was called Robert's Lounge, something like that. So that's why I was in the film. But yes, it was me. So that's number one. A few more things with Henry. Again, he wasn't the same guy that was portrayed in that film. It was unfortunate because I think deep inside, Henry wasn't a bad guy. He really wasn't. I had opportunity to speak to him way, way later on after he had gotten out of the witness protection program. He was in California trying to straighten out his life. I told you a couple of stories about him. I'm not going to be redundant and get in again. But, just unfortunate. But listen, it was a great movie. So that was his version of it. Another thing you may not know, the movie My Blue Heaven was written by Nick Pileggi's wife, Nora Ephron. That was also based loosely on Henry Hill's story. So great movie if you haven't seen it. Steve Martin was great. It was just a wonderful film, a comedy, but you got to watch it. It's about a guy in the witness protection program that was once in a life, the whole thing. You'll enjoy it. So, that's that with Henry. Obviously, I can get into a lot more with him, but you know my relationship with him. You know about Henry. So let's move on. Let's go to Paulie Vario. I can tell you this, Paulie was not the same guy in his personality and his character that was portrayed in the film Goodfellas. In Goodfellas, he was kind of a Godfather type guy. He, was like a father to Henry Hill. He wasn't that way in real life. He was a pretty rough kind of guy. He had a rough reputation. He was a capo in the Lucchese family, and I knew Paulie. He had a piece of a couple of nightclubs out in Long Island. One being a club called 231, the other one Channel 80, one of my favorite places, a place I used to go to all the time. It was on the water. They had an upstairs like balcony in there, and I'm telling you, 2-3 nights a week, I was there with, 30, 40, 50 of my crew up there, and we used to have a blast. So, and I knew Paulie. I met him once or twice in that place. He always was in and out of trouble, had a lot of stuff going on. He did get hurt by Henry Hill. Henry did testify against him once because Paulie did Henry a favor and got him a no-show job so he can get out on parole in one of his prison stints. And Henry testified to that fact, and you're not allowed to do that. So Paulie, I think he got 4 or 5 years as a result of that. And then he testified against him again, I think with the Lufthansa case or some other thing that was going on. So Paulie did get hurt by Henry Hill. I can tell you this, that Paulie did put a contract on Henry Hill's life, and that's one of the reasons why Henry flipped. I know that Jimmy Burke was also pretty upset with him. I will tell you this again, Paulie was against drugs for his crew, didn't want it. He said it brought too much heat. They gave guys too much time. He didn't like the fact that Henry was involved with drugs, and that was one of the reasons why the hit was put out on him. There was a story that Jimmy Burke was profiting with Henry Hill off of the drug business. I don't know that to be a fact. I knew Jimmy. I didn't know him to be involved with drugs. Jimmy was more of he had a crew and they did a lot of robberies and he had money out on the street. I know that for a fact. I didn't know him to be involved in drugs. And when I did speak to him one time, he had denied it. So. And I didn't ask him that. He just said, Henry's involved in drugs. It's something we don't do. So he kind of disassociated himself with that. I did tell you a story about Henry when I went into Lewisburg Penitentiary and how he helped me out by giving me supplies. He was upstairs. I was downstairs. I was in transit during that time, and he took care of me while I was in Lewisburg Penitentiary. So good guy. I like Jimmy a lot. He can never be made. Because of the fact he wasn't Italian, but he was a stand-up guy and he was known to be that way. So let's move on to Tommy DeSimone. I get asked about him all the time. People, I got to tell you this. Tommy had a rough reputation. To me, he was crazy. Okay, so allegedly killed a lot of guys. I believe a lot of that to be true. A lot of stories that I heard. Again, I met Tommy I think 2 or 3 times with Henry, and once at Jimmy Burke's place, the Robert Lounge, I think it was again. I wasn't particularly fond of him. He wasn't one of the guys that I would hang out with. He was a pretty violent guy. But guys like that don't last in this life. You need to understand that. Are you afraid of a guy like that? Well, he's a loose cannon. You don't know what he's going to do. So, yeah, you're on your guard with somebody like that because you don't know. Well, what happened with him? That scene where Henry and Jimmy and Tommy killed bats That's true. It didn't quite happen that way. I think there was more to it. Yes, Bats did insult Tommy DeSimone. I know that for a fact. I heard about that afterwards, but I think there was more to it. I think Jimmy had some involvement with Bats. He maybe have picked up some of his Shylock customers on the street. When Bats came home, he wanted those things back, and I think Jimmy might have had a problem with that. That's what I heard. And he wasn't killed on the spot after he insulted DeSimone. That was planned. It happened later, and I know it happened at one of their bars. I forget which one it was. But anyway, it was either at Henry Hill's bar or was at Jimmy Burke's bar. I think they lured him in there, and they did do a number on him. And I don't know if you know this, but Bats was very close with John Gotti. And yes, DeSimone did get killed. I know in the movie it said that Henry Hill said that they shot him in the face so they couldn't have a funeral, they couldn't open the casket. I don't believe that to be true because until today, I don't believe DeSimone's body has been found. So, you know, again, took some liberty on that. And again, guys like that don't last. Every guy that I know that was a loose cannon in that life, Roy DeMeo, you know, another example, these guys don't last, so it doesn't pay. They do a lot of damage during their lives, but they certainly end up paying for it at one point in time. So, look, I can go on and on with this. You know, this is a movie that I can spend the next hour and a half. It was a wonderful movie. I enjoyed it. I do want to tell you this. You know, that scene with Tommy DeSimone where, you know, am I funny? Funny how? Funny like a clown?
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown. I amuse you.
That wasn't in the original script. Joe Pesci kind of ad-libbed that, and he went to Scorsese and asked if he could do that. I got to tell you, Joe Pesci is probably one of the greatest gangster, you know, characters that you've ever seen. He's just terrific. He lights up the screen. He's so natural. He grew up around that life. He's terrific. He really is. He was great in Casino. He was great in Goodfellas. And he was even great in The Irishman. Played a different role, but he was great in The Irishman as Russ Buffalino. And I knew Russ. I knew him, you know, in my younger times. He was very close with my captain, Andrew Russo, at the time. So, you know, but that was a great scene. Great scene. And he just had the right language. He had the right moves. You know, he's just terrific. Pesci is great. So, you know, that's about it. Look, everybody has seen Goodfellas. We're not going to go scene by scene. You've all seen it. Again, I described it pretty well accurate. But that's it for today. So go out. If you haven't seen the movie, go and watch it. I think you can get it on Netflix or wherever. It's probably on YouTube too. If not, you pay a few bucks, you can see it. But you'll enjoy it. Ladies, it is kind of violent, kind of graphic. If you're not into that stuff, don't watch it. My wife won't watch it again. But for you guys out there that want to see a fairly accurate depiction of the life, go for it because you'll enjoy it. So that's about it for today. I want to thank you again. You know, we passed 150,000 subscribers in a very short period of time. We encourage you to subscribe. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. And when you subscribe, you're alerted to it. A lot of interviews coming up, a lot more stuff planned. For those of you that want coaching and want to join our inner circle or want to join our free site, michaelfranzese.com, it's really building. People are so encouraged with what's going on. In these crazy times, people, we need encouragement. We need encouragement. And everybody in this group is picking each other up, encouraging them. I'm jumping in. We're doing Zoom calls, really having a great time, and it's really building. So that's it for Mob Movie Monday. See you next time. Have a great day. Be safe. Be healthy. God bless.